So South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem has went viral, and it's not for anything she's accomplished as governor. It's for a book that she wrote, where in it she details this story about putting down a 14-month-old dog named Cricket. When I read this story, I said to myself, there's been many times in American history where I thought maybe both sides could come together, and sometimes we would for just a minute. Back when the pandemic first started, I said to myself, well, nobody wants to get sick, regardless of your political viewpoints. No one wants to actually get sick, so this will bring us together. It didn't work because they quickly turned it into a conspiracy theory and a hoax, and the next thing you know, we're just right back to fighting with each other. This time around, I said to myself, surely to goodness, this will bring us together, because no one likes stories of just innocently killing dogs, do we? I mean, are we really that far gone that we will find a way how to turn this into a conspiracy theory? I mean, Donald Trump did say this once.
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. No, they say, Trump, we love you too, man. Trump's voters are by far, I'm at 68, 69%. I'm at 90% total. Like, will you stay? Absolutely. I think it's 68 or 69%. Will you most likely stay? That gets into the 90s. Other guys are like at 10. A guy like Jeb Bush, he has nobody, but he's like like they don't have people. They have nothing. Rubio, soft. They're all soft, all soft. My people stay. By the way, Cruz, soft.
So yeah, Donald Trump did say that, and then years later, he reads Kristi Noem's book, and he left a review, and he had this to say: Governor Kristi Noem is a tremendous leader, one of the best. This book is a winner. It exposes the problems we're facing and lays out a fantastic plan to make America great again. You've got to read it. Now, honestly, I doubt he read it. To be honest with you, he probably didn't read it, but if he did, he read it, and that section of the book wasn't a deal breaker. And why would it be a deal breaker to a guy who says that he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue, shoot someone, and not lose a follower? So if he did read the book, I'm not surprised that part went over his head. Hell, the guy don't even have a dog, so why should he care? But for those of you who are still scratching your head going, what exactly happened? I'm going to show you this clip from CNN where they read excerpts from the book. And Kristi Noem describes killing this dog because she said it was untrainable. And then she goes on home to kill a goat. And I'm not making this up. Roll the clip.
And I can almost guarantee that this next story will be on the joke list tonight. Some people not so sure it's funny. One of Donald Trump's possible running mate contenders made this, some people would say, bizarre admission that has a lot of people angry.
Okay, here is the backstory. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem released a new book. The Guardian got its hands on a copy, and the outlet is flagging a section in which she describes killing her dog named Cricket.
So the easy way to explain what happened here, if you haven't read it, is to read it out loud to you. So we have the main part of the article, and we're just going to read it. Okay, so listen in.
All right, so it begins here. Cricket was a wire hair pointer, about 14 months old, she says, adding that the dog, a female, had a aggressive personality and needed to be trained to be used for hunting pheasants.
She includes her story about the ill-fated Cricket, she says, to illustrate her willingness in politics as well as in South Dakota life to do anything, quote, difficult, messy, and ugly, end quote, if it simply needs to be done. By taking Cricket on a pheasant hunt with older dogs, Noem says she hoped to calm the young dog down and begin to teach her how to behave.
It's just a puppy. All right, unfortunately, Cricket ruined the hunt, she said, going, quote, out of her mind with excitement, chasing all the birds and having the time of her life. Noem describes calling Cricket, then using an electronic collar to attempt to bring her under control. Nothing worked. Then, on the way home after the hunt, as Noem stopped to talk to a local family, Cricket escaped Noem's truck and attacked the family's chickens.
So, quote, grabbing one chicken at a time, crunching it to death with one bite, then dropping it to attack another. Cricket, the untrainable dog, Noem writes, behaved like a, quote, trained assassin. When Noem finally grabbed Cricket, she says the dog, quote, whipped around to bite me. Then, as the chicken's owner wept, Noem repeatedly apologized, wrote the shocked family a check, quote, for the price they asked, and helped them dispose of the carcasses littering the scene of the crime.
Okay, through it all, Noem says Cricket was, quote, the picture of pure joy. I hated that dog, Noem writes, adding that Cricket had proved herself, quote, untrainable, dangerous to anyone she came in contact with, and less than worthless as a hunting dog.
So at that moment, Noem says, I realized I had to put her down. Noem, who also represented her state in Congress for 8 years, got her gun, then led Cricket to a gravel pit. It was not a pleasant job, she writes, but it had to be done. And after it was over, I realized another unpleasant job needed to be done. Incredibly, Noem's tale of slaughter is not finished.
Her family, she writes, also owned a male goat that was nasty and mean because it had not been castrated.
Naturally.
Furthermore, as one knows, the goat smelled disgusting, musky, rancid, and loved to chase Noem's children, knocking them down and ruining their clothes.
Noem decided to kill the unnamed goat the same way she had just killed Cricket the dog. But though she dragged him to a gravel pit, the goat jumped as she shot and therefore survived the wound. Noem says she went back to her truck, retrieved another shell, and hurried back to the gravel pit and put him down. At that point, Noem writes, she realized the construction crew had watched her kill both animals. The startled workers swiftly got back to work, she writes, only for a school bus to arrive and drop off Noem's children.
Okay, now you got to remember you're talking to a guy here who was born in Tennessee. I've lived here for 25 years, but I grew up over in southeast Kentucky. That's where I was raised. And while I was there, one of the biggest things my family was into growing up was hunting. And we had dogs of all kinds for all different types of hunting. We had beagles for rabbit hunting. We had squirrel dogs and went squirrel hunting. And we had coon hounds and we went coon hunting. And we had walkers and black and tans and red bones and blue ticks. And there was a time that, I mean, my family was known for it. They were in this circle of dog traders, and they would pass them back and forth. And I have been on hunting trips where we took a dog on a hunting trip, a young dog on a trip, and it didn't do well. And we'd try again, and it wouldn't do well. And after so many tries, we would maybe pass it on to somebody else that might want to give it a try. We didn't take it out in a gravel pit and just shoot it in the head. I mean, there were some cold-hearted rednecks around my part of the world that did that kind of thing. And political differences aside, we all agreed they were assholes. You know, the ones that did stuff like that, we all agreed it didn't matter whether we went to church every Sunday or not. It was like, yeah, that guy over there is a prick for doing what he did to that dog because it wouldn't hunt. I mean, that's pretty much been something that's universal in my part of the world, is that if you mistreat an animal, you're a prick, you know. And yet Donald Trump reads the book. It wasn't a deal breaker for him. And she wrote the book and tried to pass it off like that I have the ability to make difficult decisions. Like that's going to win people over. Like that. Like I'm going to read a book and I'm going to go, oh man, yeah. I mean, once upon a time she didn't know how to train a dog, how to bird hunt. So hell, she took it out and shot it. I mean, yeah, she had a tough decision. That's the girl for me. No, that's the one big giant red flag that would leap out at me, and I would go, you know. She lacked the temperament to be patient with the dog. She lacked the temperament to keep trying with the dog. And she lacked the compassion to say, okay, I've tried everything I know to do, so let's just find it a good home. There's been times that we have said, you know what, this dog here just needs to, it's never going to have the ability to hunt. Let's just find it a good home. Let's just find it somebody who wants to have it for a pet, and vice versa. It's been back in like 2014. I got a blue tick hound. I got him for a pet. That's what I wanted him for. But every time I turned him loose here in East Tennessee, he ran up the road and treed. And so I would have to go get him. And one day I said to myself, you know what? This dog ain't meant to be a pet. He doesn't want to be here. He is dying to go hunting. So you know what I did? I called up an old coon hunting buddy of mine from southeast Kentucky and said, hey, dude, would you like a blue tick? He's yours for free. Take him with you. That's what reasonable people do. But Kristi Noem, who has been considered as a VP contender, uses that as her illustration for, oh yeah, I could make the tough decisions. No, you're heartless. That's what you are. And again, this should be that moment. This should be that thing that brings everybody together. But you watch and see, there will be MAGA people out there who will just lean into this and say, well, yeah, I mean, she had to do it, yeah. And then you let Joe Biden tell you that he prefers a Snicker bar over a Milky Way, and they'll lose their minds, by God. Oh my God, he wants a Snicker bar, not a Milky Way. But they'll find a way to give her a pass for doing that to a dog and an innocent goat. I have dogs and goats, by the way. I have both. And I'm going to be moving soon, so I'm going to be finding homes for them to go to because I'm not going to be able to take them with me. But guess what I'm not going to do? It's absolutely ridiculous. But here's the thing, folks. They're the party of cruelty, so you shouldn't be surprised. They're the party of bitterness and resentment, so you shouldn't be surprised. They're the party that wants to push out anyone who disagrees with them, so we shouldn't be surprised. This is the party who wants to run anyone out of this country who don't believe like them, who wants to start mass deporting people on day one. So no, I'm not at all shocked that they would be heartless, cruel. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. It's a sick, disgusting story, but I'm not at all shocked.